everyone. Welcome back to Paper Made Me Do It. I'm doing a little catch-up journaling here in my Hobonichi Cousin Avec. I was a little behind this week, so I took some time last night and just went through a couple double spreads here in the book. And it's been a really long time since I just started out by plopping down some random watercolor. So that's what I decided to do here. I ended up taking about an hour and a half to just play in this book. So obviously there have been a lot of cutaways and editing to this video. Between each of these color plops here, I did take a heat dryer to dry the watercolor and speed up the time. So I cut that process away. But I'm just plopping down random watercolors, and this is so soothing, and it brought me back to years ago when I was first introduced by a friend to Allie Brown's YouTube channel, and it reminded me of some of the first videos I ever watched of hers, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where she would take and just plop watercolor onto the pages of her traveler's notebook and then go on top of them with text journaling with fountain pens. And I always loved the look of those completed pages having that watercolor in the background. It also adds that cool texture if you're into that. You know, once the Tomoe River paper inside the Hobonichi books gets wet with watercolor and then dries, you get that nice crinkle feel and sound. So after I prepped a handful of pages with the watercolor plops, I decided to go in and knock out some spreads. So I used a Kakuno fountain pen for that first little piece of journaling, and the ink inside is not waterproof, so I have to kind of be cognizant of that so I don't go back on top of it with any kind of wet media. But I'm just doing a little sketch here. I had journaled about the fact that I did some laundry that day and then watched some movies with my son. So I wrote in the word laundry with a water brush and watercolor. It's also been a while, excuse me, since I've done watercolor lettering, which I also really enjoy. But I'm just taking that same Kakuno fountain pen here and just sketching out an old school TV. I need to ask my kids if they can identify what that even is. That seems silly, but you know, I don't know that they've ever even seen an old school box TV like the one I sketched out. But I went in with a little more journaling at the bottom of the page. That evening I had cooked gumbo and peach cobbler, and so I just made a little note of that. And whenever I make my peach cobbler, I use an old simple recipe that was my grandmother's, so I actually jotted the little recipe down on the left side there with my fountain pen. And I'm just going back in with that water brush and lettering out with the watercolor, the gumbo and peach cobbler. And I tried to kind of mix a few different colors between yellows and oranges to get a little variation in the shade for the peach cobbler, so it kind of favors the color pattern for the peach cobbler. And while I'm waiting for all that lettering to dry, I decided to color in the little old school TV sketch. And this is not a watercolor pencil. This is just a straight up colored pencil. I decided to use colored pencils since that ink that I used is not waterproof. So I started with a gray for the interior screen, and this is just a black colored pencil. And then I'm kind of filling in the frame of the TV. And that way I didn't have to worry about any of that ink smearing if it were to get wet with watercolor. And then this is a Tombow Fudenosuke, however you pronounce it, brush pen. And the navy body is the firm tip. So I just went in and jotted movie time inside the little TV screen. And laying down some washi and stickers. Those last couple stickers came from a booklet from the Happy Planner company, as well as that sticker. I'm just kind of moving on to the right side of the page here too, and kind of working in both while I wait for parts of that left side to dry. Just doing some watercolor lettering here for the day of the week. It was Sunday on the right side of this spread. That gratitude sticker that was already laid down at the top of the page came from that same Happy Planner sticker book. I want to say it was like a farmhouse theme, modern farmhouse is what it was called. I'm just doing a little more lettering here. I stayed home that morning and watched the live stream of our church service. And so now I'm just kind of going back and forth here while I'm waiting for the right side of the spread to dry. I thought I'd go back in and just add some more color and interest to the left side of the page. So after those little hearts above the television, I'm just going in with some polka dots, and I'm kind of pulling from the color palette of the lettering on the top half of the page now. So greens and blues, and kind of mixing those two colors together. That Saturday little printable at the top of the page was cut away from the Courtney printables, Little Raven ink, on her Patreon. And then the numbers that I had already sketched out, the 13 and 14, were from a stencil, numeric stencil. I purchased it on Amazon forever ago, and unfortunately it's not available now, that same exact stencil, but there are similar ones that you can find on Amazon as well as Etsy. I know several people have asked about that exact stencil in the past. But I just continued the little polka dots on the bottom half of the page, but I switched up the color palette to kind of match that red, orange, yellow color scheme on the bottom half. And then did one more little watercolor section on the right side of the page. I had watered the plants that day. And while it's drying, I'm taking that same Kikuno fountain pen, since I won't be doing any more wet media on the left side of the page. I'm just outlining all of those letters. And then on the Disney Plus logo, instead of outlining each letter, I just decided to kind of outline the whole little section of that lettering. But I like to outline the letters. I try not to be too exact with it. I like the look that you get when the outline doesn't follow the color behind it exactly. It just gives a little interest and makes it look a little more informal and fun. And this Kikuno fountain pen is in a fine nib. I have, I believe, fine, medium, and I just recently purchased an extra fine Kikuno, and I like all of them. They all write very smoothly, and they're just a little workhorse pen, very inexpensive, but they perform really well. So I went back to the right side of the page and just did a few sections of text journaling before going in and doing that same kind of outlining. And I've discovered when I do the lettering that's connected like this, the cursive brush type lettering, I find that it's faster to outline the whole shape fluidly instead of skipping from each individual letter to letter. So you can see I kind of outline the whole bottom and then the whole top there, and then go back in and fill in the little gaps in the centers of some letters. And then outlining the live stream. And the little hash marks that I made, I must have had more water than pigment on the brush because they kind of faded into the paper, so they definitely needed a good outline. And then let's see, I'm just outlining that bottom section of watered all the plants. I did not plant anything outside last year, so I kind of was starting over this year, but I recently did several potted plants, 2 large potted plants on either side of my front door on our front porch, and then I repotted a couple of house plants that used to be inside my house and added a few things to them. So now I have, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 potted plants that I'm storing on my back porch right now. And it is so hot and humid here. We are definitely having summer weather already in Louisiana. So I went ahead and brought everything outside, and because it's so hot and humid, I'm having to water two days a week at a minimum, and I may have to bump it up to 3. It's just so hot. But after I finished outlining that section, I did a couple, well, more than a couple, just a handful of little sketches of leaves. And then this Stickii Club graphic, I cut away from one of the outer packaging envelopes, and that's the monthly sticker subscription that I take part in. So I just kind of taped it in as a tip in. I may go back later and add either some journaling or stickers or something to the back of that, but for now I just left it plain on the back. So flipping over to the next spread, instead of doing watercolor lettering, I'm using markers here. The Monday was done with a purple Sharpie brush pen, and then the Tuesday is being done with another one of those Tombow brush pens. And this one has a black body instead of a navy body, so the tip of it is a little bit softer. That's the difference between those two pens. The black is a softer tip and the navy body is a harder tip. So the navy one is a little easier to control if you're a beginner with lettering in terms of getting that thicker downstroke and thinner upstroke. But I'm going in now on the left side of the page, and after a little journaling, I'm using a fine liner here to make a little checklist. I did some housekeeping and cleaning that day. What fine liner is that? Let me see. I have it here within reach. It is a Le Pen drawing pen, pigmented ink, technical drawing pen, and it comes in a set. So similar to the Pigma Microns, where you get several different sizes of the nib or tip. And that might be a micron. I believe it is that I'm using there. It is a Pigma Micron fine liner that I'm using for a little journaling. Now, I'm not going back and adding any more wet media to this page at this point anyway, but the good thing about the Pigma Micron pens is that they are waterproof and archival. So if you use them for sketches or journaling, you just have to let them dry a little while, and then you actually can go back and add watercolor or wet media on top of them, and you won't get any smearing, so that's nice. Here I just took another one of those Happy Planner stickers and laid it down, and on top of that was a business card from London Gifties that I just added in as a tip in. And here I'm taking a letter or a little note that I got in the mail from a friend recently. I just folded it in half and tucked into the little pocket on that page. That was just a little glassine packaging envelope that came from a recent stationery order. I trimmed the top of it off and glued it to the page to create a little pocket. And there you'll see that Tombow brush pen again, as well as some more stickers. And then that Lorite postcard has a handwritten note on the back from Diamond, so I just added that as a tip in. But I continued on for a couple more spreads, but I stopped the filming here at this point. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope you're having fun in your journals. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.